So, what are those 6 steps you need to avoid before you go ahead and take in your PMP examination? Let's break it down. Imagine walking into the PMP exam. You're feeling confident, and then boom, the first question hits you like a brick. You read it once, twice, you still have no clue or idea what they're asking. Your heart starts to race, time is ticking, suddenly you feel completely unprepared. I know that feeling because the first time I took the PMP, I made some serious mistakes, and I don't want you to go through that. So today, let's talk about the biggest mistakes that can cost you your certification and how to avoid them. If you're new here, my name is Anna Anderson. I am a project manager by profession, a project management career coach, a PMP trainer, and a LinkedIn learning instructor. I help professionals like you pass the PMP exam and level up your project management career. So if you're studying for your PMP, you need to hear this because avoiding these mistakes can literally be the difference between you passing and failing. So let's dive in and look at these top mistakes I see all the time and how you can make sure you're setting yourself up for success. So, mistake number one, skipping the exam content outline. This is a big one. A lot of people skip the exam content outline. This is how it looks like. You can go over to any search engine that you use and search exam PMP exam content outline. You'll find it, or go directly to pmi.org and it will be there. So this is pretty much your PMP exam cheat sheet. It tells you exactly what topics are being covered and how they are weighted. 50% questions in process, 42% questions in people, 8% questions in business environment, but a lot of people ignore it. I have no idea why. That's a big mistake. The PMP isn't about memorization, it's about understanding the concepts, and they are all in the PMP ECO exam content outline. So, how are you going to avoid this? Again, I just said go over to any search engine, download the exam content outline, highlight the key sections, and make sure your study plan is focused on what actually is being tested. If a topic is not in the ECO, don't waste time. Right? Mistake number two is underestimating agile and hybrid questions. Here's a shocker. Agile and hybrid questions is 50% of the PMP exam. But so many people think, oh, I work in a traditional project environment. I do not need agile. No, you do need to understand it. Here's the shocker. Agile and hybrid topics make up 50% of the exam. But so many people think, oh, I work in a traditional environment. I don't need to study Agile. I've seen this a lot with students who've come through my class. And let me tell you, it was a rude awakening. PMI wants you to understand how the concepts and how you can adapt in different project environments. Even if you work in a fully predictive waterfall role, you need to understand agile concepts. So, how are you going to avoid this? Make sure you study agile frameworks, the values, the different roles. You don't need to be a scrum master, but you need to understand the different terms like maybe servant leadership or sprints or product backlog, just to name but a few. All right. Mistake number three, relying on memorization instead of understanding. That's a big mistake. So if you're trying to memorize every ITTO, every process, every formula, you're going to struggle. PMP questions aren't designed to test your memory, they're designed to test your decision making. So, for example, PMI will not ask you to list like 5 conflict resolution techniques. They're not going to do that. Instead, they're going to give you a scenario where two stakeholders are arguing and you have to decide the best way to handle it. So, how are you going to avoid this? So, instead of memorizing, focus on why things work the way they do. Ask yourself, why does this process exist? How would you apply this in real life? Use real world examples to make some of these concepts stick. It's very, very important. All right. Mistake number four, not doing enough practice questions. This is one that a lot of people, because they're just paying so much attention on the books and they're not doing practice questions. Don't do that. Reading the pain book guide is not enough. You have to get comfortable with how PMI is asking those questions. The first time for me, I took the PMP exam, and that's when the book was this thick. I don't know if any of you remember when the PIM book guide is this thick. I was shocked at how tricky the questions were. They weren't just about define this, they were long, they were situational. So, how are you going to avoid this? So, this is going to shock you, but do at least 1,000 practice questions before your exam. I know you're like 1,000 questions, Anna. How ridiculous is that? But don't just answer them, review them, understand why you got some of this wrong, and track your areas of weakness so that you can go on and improve. All right. Mistake 5, poor time management during the exam. This is a big one. You have 230 minutes, you have 180 questions. Some people think 230 minutes, that's a long time, but that means you have 76 seconds per question. That's not enough time, you guys. And yet, I see people getting stuck on one question for like 5 minutes. They're panicking and then they start rushing through the rest of the questions. That's what happened to me. I wasted too much time second guessing, and by the time I was getting to the last 50 questions, I only had 20 minutes left. I was in full panic mode. I want you to avoid this. And how do you do that? Follow the 1, 2, 3 rule. If you can answer it in under a minute, do it. If you're unsure, mark it for review and move on. But I don't want you to mark so many questions for review because then you'll come back and spending so much time on that. But again, if you're unsure, mark it for review. If you have no clue, I want you to guess strategically, move on. Don't waste time. All right. Okay, mistake number 6, not having a study plan. Cramming doesn't work for the PMP. It doesn't. This isn't a test that's you're just going to wing it. You have to have a structured plan because you'll feel overwhelmed and the materials probably won't stick. So, how are you going to avoid this? Create a study schedule. Whether it's 45 days, whether you're going to do it in 3 months, break it down into daily study blocks. Mix in practice questions and track your progress. And if you need a structure, join a PMP prep course like mine to keep you accountable. It's very, very important. So, here are my final thoughts, and let's do a quick recap on what we just talked about and the biggest mistakes to avoid if you're planning to do your PMP exam. And I don't want you to make these mistakes because I did them too. So, number one is again, we talked about skipping the exam content outline, underestimating agile and hybrid questions, relying on memorization instead of understanding, not doing enough practice questions, poor time management during the exam, and not having a study plan. Don't do that. I made some of these mistakes. It cost me. I had to pay additional money to schedule my next exam. Had to put aside additional time to study again. And I had a small baby at that time. So, again, it was just a lot. I don't want you to do that. You don't have to learn the hard way. Take some of these lessons, apply them, and set yourself up for success. So if you found this helpful, let me know in the comments. Have you made any of these mistakes? I'm sure some of you probably have, but you probably learned from them. And if you're looking for a structured PMP class, I do have my next class coming up. Check out the link in the comments and or rather in the show notes so that again you can go ahead and pass your exam on your first try. All right, hit subscribe and follow for more.